Hello, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled board meeting of the Akron Public Schools Board of Education, today on 9 January 2022. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to 2023. Wow, I said 2022. And it looks like the live streaming is, we might do that again. Are we good? All right. Well, let's do that again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled board meeting of Akron Public Schools Board of Education on 9 January 2023. Happy New Year, everyone. And we see some eagerness in the room, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And first, we want to recognize our new interim treasurer, Todd Atkins, for being here. I'm going to turn it over to him to do a roll call.
Dr. Akbar.
Here.
Mr. Alexander.
Present.
Ms. Autry.
Here.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Here.
Mr. Perry.
I'm here.
Thank you very much.
We have a school board member as well.
Yes.
Coach Ice Griffin from East High School.
Coach East.
Here.
Coach East.
Yes. And we definitely welcome our student board member, Coach East. Thank you for being here, as always.
Thank you as well.
Now, if you're able, if you could stand as we do the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ms. Jackson, if you don't mind leading us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And next on the agenda is recognition of the outgoing president, which is myself. So we're going to turn it over to Dr. Hall.
Okay.
Testing. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 3. All right. Just trying to bring some levity to these proceedings tonight. So, okay, let's laugh. It's cause for celebration. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is truly an honor for me to have the opportunity to do this. This is a proclamation of appreciation for Dr. N.J. Akbar, board president. And we don't always read everything that's on these proclamations, but I'm going to read everything that's here because I think that we owe this man here, that type of recognition. So let me begin by saying, whereas Dr. N.J. Akbar has completed his second consecutive year as the president of the Board of Education of the Akron City School District, serving as president during the 2021 and 2022 school years. And whereas he served on the Joint Board of Review since 2020, the board comprises members from the city of Akron and the Akron City School District that oversaw the Imagine Akron $800 million CLC building program. And whereas during his tenure as president, the board advocated for and completed a living wage study to ensure all employees are paid equitably at a livable standard wage above the current state's minimum wage to be implemented over the course of the next few years. And whereas, during his presidency, Dr. Akbar appointed the first members to the Equity Committee of the Akron Board of Education. And whereas, Dr. Akbar's presidency, he has thoughtfully crafted new board policies to improve the experience for students and families. He has provided steady leadership and has actively represented the board and the district throughout the community. And whereas, during his tenure as presidency, we celebrated the opening of the last new Ohio Facilities Construction Commission project, Garfield CLC. And whereas, during his presidency, Dr. Akbar devoted his leadership skills to overseeing the treasurer search for the most qualified candidate to manage the district finances. And whereas, during Dr. Akbar's presidency, he approved the addition of recognizing Juneteenth as a holiday for staff, allowing employees the opportunity to celebrate the end of slavery in the United States. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Akron City School District, County of Summit, and State of Ohio. Section 1, that Dr. Akbar is recognized for his outstanding leadership and service as president of the Akron Board of Education during 2022. Section 2, that sincerest appreciation is extended to Dr. N.J. Akbar by his colleagues Section 3, that a copy of this resolution be made a part of the permanent record of the Akron Board of Education, and that a copy be presented to Dr. Akbar. And this is notated by all the Akron Board of Education members. So please join me in giving a round of applause for Dr. Akbar. I invite you to the podium, sir. And here is your gavel, your souvenir gavel, although you can still bring it and beat it if you want to. But
Thank you very
you're very welcome. And the floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
So first, thank you very much, Dr. Hall. And really, I wanted to begin by thanking the entire Board of Education, my colleagues here who has entrusted me to lead them and to carry their voice for the last 2 years. It's definitely been a sincere honor of my lifetime to serve this board, this community, and most of all, represent each and every one of you. I have deep, immense respect for each of you. And I hope that when we look back on those last 2 years, you can say that I represented you well. Also want to thank and congratulate the newly elected leadership when they are elected for accepting the mantle of leadership. I believe that every board member on this board has extraordinary leadership skills and abilities, and know that our new leaders have my 100% commitment to support you and provide you with resources as you embark on this sometimes lonely journey. Also, I cannot go any further really without saying that being the spokesperson of the board carries a lot of weight, and really it means you have to have the pulse of each one of the members, and sometimes that means opposite of your own pulse or beliefs, and that's okay, because the will of the board is always going to be the will of the board, and we speak as one voice. And I've carried that with immense respect and reverence as I've served in this role. So I want to share first, why am I even on this board and why do I serve? I serve because a teacher dramatically changed the trajectory of my life. She was patient, she was caring, thoughtful, and most of all, she believed in me. I was the student who couldn't read by the time I reached the 3rd grade. I was counted out and just passed along. I could not be here today as Dr. Akbar without Ms. Deacon's attentiveness, care, and empathetic approach. So why do I share that? I share that because I believe every teacher and every student deserves a teacher like Ms. Deacon. And I believe that our teachers in this district exude this same kind of compassion, dedication, and commitment to the students of this district, if not more. I believe that all 7 members of this board would agree with me when they say there's never been a question between any of us that our value and respect for our teachers remained at its highest peak. You make a difference, and we want you to know that we honor your commitment and sacrifice and all that you do every day to demonstrate to this board and to this community your commitment, and I hope you value the approach that we are taking. We believe that our students deserve teachers like Ms. Deacon, regardless of what zip code or who the scholar's parents are. They deserve a school community where they belong, where they are seen for their unique talents and values. Together, we can and will continue to make this reality for more and more students. I want us to do more to empower our teachers with the resources to make this difference in our students' lives. During my presidency, I have made it a priority to build a strong relationship with the AEA leadership, meeting regularly with Pat Shipe and Michael Householder. I believe we have built a solid relationship and foundation, that can only be strengthened. I have found both of them to be sincere, collegial, fair, and dedicated to this district, and I believe they would characterize me in the very same fashion. I believe our new board leadership will maintain that same level of commitment and openness to building a relationship centered on transparency, mutual respect, and student focus. We are on the same side. You are APS, we are APS, our students, our families, our community, we are all APS. I have made that very clear, and that no one wins when we don't center mutual respect for our employees' fundamental right to bargain and unionize, to protect their interests, and ensure that they receive the greatest opportunity for economic and professional growth. We have seen in our history where this was not respected, and how those in control, how the respect and dignity of workers are subordinated by those in control and power of the purse strings. We remain committed to doing our part to being even better in that support in the days and years ahead. We believe that this is a true partnership, and this is not just rhetoric, but an authentic commitment. I want everyone to know that this board respects and values all of its employees and will do all we can to pursue what is right for those with the least among us. This brings me to the acknowledging a few of our accomplishments during the last 3 years of myself being in board leadership. First, I want to thank the board for supporting the livable wage priority, which set out to determine a minimum wage standard for all employees within the district so that our custodians, cafeteria workers, tutors, paraprofessionals, and all other employees who don the APS badge are paid a livable wage, lifting as many of them out of public assistance and poverty and from living check to check as possible. Everyone who works full-time deserves this benefit. No degree is a prerequisite for this fundamental value proposition to becoming embedded into our district operations. While we have not received the final conclusions of what this will look like or where we will ultimately land, it is my sincerest hope that we can phase this priority into our district operations within the next few years in a sensible, sustainable, and respectful manner. I am proud of this board for our rigorous, respectful, and deliberate discussions on important issues that will affect our district long-term and our students' futures. Contrary to some people's beliefs, it is not a problem for us to vote our conscience, even when they differ. We are not rubber stampers. We respect each member's individual rights to vote the way that they feel is best from their perspective and their constituencies. The individual board members' votes determine the board's decision. Regardless of the final vote, 4-3, 6-1, 7-0, the will of the board is the will of the board. And the vote counts does not matter, and nor does it mean that we're fractured or misguided. It means we're deliberate. It means we're respectful. It means that we honor the democratic process and that we honor the diverse perspectives and experiences that enhance our overall progress and effectiveness. We are greater for the rich dialogue and mutual respect that we show one another. We cannot let others' biased views tarnish the good that we do when we respect the democratic process. I am also proud of the many initiatives and policies advances that we have successfully spearheaded and passed. First, prioritizing hearing from the public, those who sing our praises and those who have genuine concerns. All are welcome. I introduced to the board a change to our public participation policy to allow same-day signups and eliminate all prior vetting and mail-in requests. We want to hear from you. We want to do what's right for our community and our students. So many of you are watching from your home, work, car, school, or any other places around the city or even country. And this is because I introduced the live streaming policy, which the board wholeheartedly supported, allowing us to be responsive to the needs of our community in 2022 and beyond. Racism as a Public Health Crisis resolution, which acknowledged the role that racism has played in our district and the world at large. It eliminated the computerized screening of applicants in our HR process that was requiring applicants to respond in a standardized way, which prevented the district from increasing its diverse staff, amongst other things. Introduced the idea that our board adopt a district strategic priorities to replace our district focus and advance in 3 intentional areas of achievement, equity, and engagement through our advanced APS, which we plan to elevate this year. The employee and student pronoun and chosen name policy adoption to ensure all staff and students are respected for how they identify and not how they are perceived. Everyone deserves that level of respect and dignity, and schools should be a place where those 2 values are on display in all of our actions. Over a year ago, I introduced the student boundary zone or assignment within districts revisions policy to ensure we prioritize community involvement prior to changing where students go to school within the district. And I look forward to the board's full support of adopting this policy very soon. As a board, we have elevated doing what's right and centering equity as foundational values of our mode of operation. We believe that those who have not had much of a voice in the process of making decisions, yet bear the brunt of those decisions, deserve to be elevated and heard. This means prioritizing decisions like keeping the Kenmore building open and operational for years to come. This means listening to the Booked on East clusters when talking about historic harm that they've experienced. This means we need to do more to bring different people to the table than we have in the past and give them greater priority at shaping where we go in the future. This also means finding ways to strengthen our support for our international and English as a second language community members. This means we can no longer accept that this is how it's always been done. To that end, Akron Public Schools and the City of Akron has a giant task ahead into the future. We must make our community learning centers more accessible without the financial restrictions and barriers for our community members and organizations to use on weekends and evenings. We must accept that the ESSER funds only prolong the inevitable, that we must rally around our schools and pass a levy soon. We must support the separate but conjoining jurisdictions and interests we serve without seeking to dictate to or condemn the other when they do not do what you want them to do. This is our time to shine, Akron, but we have to do it together. This is Akron Public Schools. So thank you again for your confidence and faith in serving you as your president of this body. I am more than appreciative of all of your support, and I also want all of our employees in this district to know that your dedicated years of service and all you do to ensure that our students have the very best to offer do not go unrecognized. I also want to thank my employer, Kent State University, for almost 14 years of an incredibly supportive career, and supervisors, Dr. Ebony Pringle and Dr. Amwaba Gooden, for pushing me to be the very best that I can. I'm immensely grateful for these 2 Black women who have been great sources of inspiration and mentorship. Being on the board has required me to take more vacation time than I would have liked, but I have done so to serve this city that has adopted me and that I want the absolute best for. Thank you again to my board colleagues. I have poured my heart and soul into representing you and representing the will of the board and keeping our students as the priority of all we do. I look forward to finding my new seat assignment somewhere around this table, and will proudly continue to serve the remainder of my term as a valuable member of this board and team. Together, we will continue to move this district forward. And finally, as a point of personal privilege, I could not end without concluding by thanking my loving, wonderful, patient, and giving husband, Alex. I love him more than anything on this earth. And I could not have done any of this. I could not have served you without his love, sacrifice, and support. And because I need to maintain a strict separation between the work that I do at work and the board, that I need to respond to my emails in the evenings between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And it's because of his sacrifice and love that I'm able to do that. So in the last few months, the emails have come faster and more furious, and I've tried my very best to represent each one of you on this board and respond to each and every one of them on this board's behalf. And I hope that I've done that very well. But I could not have done that without Alex's love and support. So with that being said, I want to thank you, Akron Public Schools. I want to thank you to the board. I want to thank you to the community of Akron for supporting me, and thank you for these last 2 years as your president. Thank you. Didn't know that was going to happen. So now I have the distinct pleasure of going to the next item, which is the election of the successor. So we will do the election of the president. So I will now entertain a motion on the table for any nominations for board president for 2023. Mrs. McKittrick.
I nominate Dr. Hall.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly nominated by Mrs. McKittrick and seconded by Mrs. Jackson. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any? Mrs. Jackson? Ms. Jackson? Okay. Are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none, we have one nominee on the ballot for president. Mr. Atkins, if you want to do the roll call vote, please.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar.
Yes. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Dr. Hall. Next, we have the election of the vice president, and we will open nominations for vice president. Is there any? Mrs. McKittrick.
Ms. Autry.
Mrs. McKittrick nominated Ms. Autry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Jackson. Any discussion on that motion? All right. Any other nominations for vice president? Are there any other nominations for vice president? Are there any other nominations for vice president? Hearing and seeing none, we will close nominations for vice president with that one nominee. Mr. Atkins, if we can do a roll call vote, please.
Dr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye. Yes.
At this time, we will do the ceremonial passing of the gavel, and then Mr. Atkins will deliver the oath. I'm sorry. We will first do the oath of office. Mr. Atkins can go to the podium there and deliver the oath to our new president and vice president.
Okay, Dr. Hall,
They can go at the same time, I
move
think.
together. Okay. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you perform faithfully the duties as President and Vice President of the Akron Board of Education to the best of your ability, in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Board of Education and laws now in effect and hereunto after to be enacted during your continuance of said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? Very good.
Thank you very much. And so no need to sit down, Mr. President. Now it is an honor and privilege for me to pass the gavel of leadership to you, Dr. Hall. The honor is bestowed on you by this board. It's a heavy one that comes with great responsibility of having the pulse of each board member and sometimes representing the will of the board, even when they differ than your own personal thoughts. The will of the board supersedes all, and this board entrusts you to facilitate, mediate, and advocate on our behalf. So thank you very much, and congratulations. You may now have your seat. That's fine.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. So that's a tough act to follow. I'll confess that I had two versions of my remarks for tonight. I'm glad that I could delete the other version of my remarks for tonight. So first, let me begin by saying that I too want to thank my spouse, my wife, Jessica, for allowing me to accept this position. And that is meaningful because I saw all the hours that Dr. Akbar put in, all the emails that arrived between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. in my inbox. And so I don't take lightly the amount of work that I will have to engage in to live up to the standard that he has set for the last 2 years. Second, I want to thank Dr. Akbar for his leadership over these last 2 years and for his friendship, and again, for all of the hard work that he has put in. And when Dr. Akbar says that he's poured his soul into this job for the last 2 years, I think those of us around this table know that that is, in fact, the case. We have been through and endured much, and yet I am amazed at all that we have accomplished over the last 2 years. The resolution that you heard me read earlier is truly a testament to his hard work and leadership. I also want to congratulate Ms. Autry on her election to vice president. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with you these last 3 years and look forward to working even more closely with you this year. I am very excited for our partnership. We have much to do. Next, I want to thank my board colleagues for their faith and trust. I appreciate each of you and the variety of strengths and talents that each of you bring to this organization. I will work hard as I do not want to let you down. And as a quick aside, I already have some ideas for how we can shorten our, at times, lengthy board meetings. You can laugh, that's okay. We all have cause to celebrate because our kids were in school today. And they will be in school tomorrow. And I would be remiss if I did not take another moment to thank everyone for their hard work in coming to an agreement that keeps our kids as the true north on our compass while taking care of those that take care of our kids. As we move forward, we want to turn our focus to the following: academic achievement. In the coming weeks, you will see us begin to bring our school administrators before the board to talk about our schools, not bringing them before the board to criticize, to chastise, to censure, but to have meaningful, honest dialogue about what they face in the buildings in our great city. As we seek to highlight our schools' strengths, their weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We will continue to work to address the disciplinary and safety issues. We must address the broken windows that are on display in too many of our schools. Signatures on a contract do not make all of our challenges go away. Rather, our agreement represents unity in how we proceed forward together. And let me say that disciplinary and safety challenges are not simply an APS issue. These are also community issues. And we will solve these problems as a community. It is not enough to simply push these items to the family or blame the family, especially when too many of our families are impoverished and or missing key members of their families. We as a school system and a community must figure out how to support and fill the gaps that exist in our families. Thankfully, this work has already begun. As an example, Mr. Alexander and myself have had the opportunity to participate in an ongoing community forum convened by Deputy Mayor Marco Somerville and moderated by Bishop Joey Johnson from House of the Lord that is working to bring together stakeholders from across the community, inclusive of APS, to address the violence and safety concerns in our city. I'm excited to see how this work collaboration evolves. In addition, we will strive to work even more closely with Pat Shipe and her AEA leadership team to craft thoughtful and creative solutions to improve the environments in which our teachers teach. Can I say that? Teachers teach? Okay. You will also see APS highlight the work of our college and career academies as we continue to evolve the model to include report outs on our progress, sharing with our community the key performance benchmark and performance measures we use to evaluate the model and how we are performing against said benchmarks. APS also has fantastic partnerships across this city, and we will work to ensure that the leaders of those organizations have the opportunity to come and share with the community all of the good work they have done, currently are involved with, and hopefully will continue to do in building the future of our kids. We want to specifically invite Christine Amer-Mayer from the GAR Foundation, Jim Mullen from the United Way, Jenny Highfield from Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens, and others to come and sit with us. And by the way, us includes our AEA partners as well, so that we can work together to come up with even more creative solutions and programs that will benefit our kids. The guiding principles that we will continue to be signatory to will continue to be our APS 343 initiatives and our excellence through equity framework. These will remain the heartbeat of all that we do. And finally, let me conclude by saying that we will continue our increased emphasis on relationships. All of us matter. All of us have our part to play. We have much to do, so let's get to work. Thank you. So at this time, what I'd like to do is call a brief recess before we move on with board assignments and things of that nature, so that others that may wish to leave can do so. So with that, having said that, we'll do a quick 5-minute recess. board colleagues their new board assignments here for 2023. And so we'll walk through those. Copies of these were emailed earlier, but let me just read them into the record. So legal contracts and board policy. The chair shall be Dr. Akbar. The vice chair shall be Carla Jackson. And Bruce Alexander will serve on that committee as a member as well. Finance and capital management. The chair shall be Diane Autry. The vice chair shall be Dr. Akbar. And Joe Perry will serve on that committee as well. Instructional policy and student achievement. The chair shall be Bruce Alexander. Vice chair shall be Valerie McKittrick. And Carla Jackson shall serve on that committee. Equity. The chair shall be Valerie McKittrick. The vice chair, Joe Perry. And Diane Autry will sit on that committee as well. The Ohio School Boards of Trustees, OSBA trustee board member position shall be Bruce Alexander as the trustee and Carla Jackson as the alternate. The OSBA Urban School District Advisory Network liaison and CUBE committee liaison position shall be board member Carla Jackson. Cluster assignments shall remain the same. Bookdale Cluster, Carla Jackson. East Cluster, Diane Autry. Elliott Cluster, Bruce Alexander. Firestone Cluster will change to Dr. Akbar. Garfield will remain as Joe Perry. And North will continue as Valerie McKittrick. And I will take over for Dr. Akbar as the liaison for the specialty schools. Joint Board of Review. I will serve as president of the Joint Board of Review as a member. I will be joined by Vice President Diane Autry, Dr. Akbar, Joe Perry, and our Superintendent Christine Fowler-Mack. And that concludes my remarks on board committee assignments. Are there any questions? Okay. All right. Next, we have to adopt the board meeting dates for 2023. Those are listed in board docs.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Atkins, please roll call.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, next we will proceed to item 1.10, Community and School Reflections. We are honored to have student school board member Coach East Griffin from East CLC here with us today. Mr. Griffin, we'd like to begin with you. We'd love to hear your comments today.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Coach East Griffin. I welcome everyone here today, and I'm glad we're all here today. I'm a junior at ECLC, and I'm in the automotive pathway. This is my second year serving as a board member. I plan on receiving an athletic scholarship for football. I plan to major in education because of my role models, Coach Hayes and Coach Gonzalez, or as some may say, Coach G. Coach Hayes is an intervention specialist, athletic director, and head football coach at East. My relationship with him is special because he is more than just a coach. He's a mentor. He helps me prepare for my future both mentally and physically. He helps me mentally by telling me what he experienced and how my peers and I can learn from his experience in college and throughout his career. He helps me physically by designing a strong weightlifting and football training program. I love football and would like to be around the game both as a player and coach for the rest of my life. Coach Gonzalez is a student success coach and defensive line coach at East. My relationship with him is also special because he acts as a mentor as well. He talks to me about personal matters and how I can improve myself. I can go to Coach G for personal reasons and life advice. I'm happy to be here today, and I was happy to be at school today. The relationships I have with my mentors, coaches, and teachers are important to me, and then I am sure across the district, many students are happy to be in school, so their relationships with and talks with teachers and mentors can continue also. As a student athlete who loves football, I would like to advocate for increased funding for sports. I feel students involved in sports are more likely to find a nonviolent way to resolve conflict. Sports teaches kids collaboration, discipline, and communication skills. These skills are necessary to be successful in life. I feel investing in sports will have a huge return on investment for Akron Public Schools. Sports provides kids with opportunities and relationships that may last a lifetime. I feel students who are involved in sports have motivation and reason to come to school, stay out of trouble, and do better in school overall. I feel the expanded budget would make teams better, and the return would generate more ticket sales and overall positive publicity for APS. Thank you for allowing me to advocate for student athletes and all students at Akron Public Schools. And on behalf of the student board, we look forward to continuing working alongside the elected board members to make sure Akron Public Schools is a family and the best place for a learning experience. Thank you.
Well said, sir. Well said. So next we move to community and school reflections. We'd like to, before anybody pushes the button, I'd like to, in the spirit of trying to shorten board meetings, we'd like to ask if you limit your reflections to 3 minutes apiece. Are there any community and school reflections? Dr. Akbar.
I'll start by saying
You are on the clock.
I'll start by saying that's an interesting request from you. But since I'm no longer in that seat, I will honor that request. It changes, I tell you. First, I just want to say that I did receive phone calls from multiple people over the last few weeks. As well as tons of emails, but I want to talk about one phone call with a parent who was really concerned about just the nature of the conversation around school safety, and that they personally always felt like their students felt safe in schools. And I just wanted to share that although they're out of that conversation, what I came out of it was that although there are concerns and we will continue to work on them, this parent gave me hope that there are good things that are happening, that there are students who feel safe in our schools, and our goal should be to make sure that all of our students feel safe. And so it was just good in all of the. I only want to say this one because that was the only positive thing that I received over the calls. And so with all of the, concerns that we received and will respond, that we've been responsive to, it's always good to get that nugget of where we're doing it right and seeing, where can we do it any, better. And so I want to shout out the students and the staff at Jennings because that student and parents said that they felt safe there always. So whatever we're doing at Jennings, there might be some pockets of things we can learn there. So that's all I had to say, and I think I said that under 3 minutes.
Yes, you did. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Are there any other community reflections? Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Coach East, first, I would like to thank you for being a student athlete. I like how you say student athletes because it's about academics as well as your athletic ability, and I like to highlight that often. But I also want to shout you out because earlier today during this meeting, I saw a representative, a teacher, I believe, from East. She teach, Pat, Ms. Scheidt, who I'm speaking. Yes, and she said, wow, that is an outstanding young man. I heard you say his name. So it's about living your life so out loud that others can testify to who you are as a person, your character, integrity. So I just want to commend you because we know, Dreama knows who you are as a board member, but it's excellent when someone in your school can speak to that as well. So I want to highlight that and say thank you for just being you, and I'm very proud of you. Also, I had the pleasure since we last met to visit Bookdope. CLC again, but this time was a little different because I met with 2 students, as well as the counselor there, Dr. Sims. Lisa Sims, and it was a wonderful meeting. Both of these students are members of the National Honor Society, and I just wanted to kind of meet to get a pulse of the students and what their experience is like in the school, because, you know, you hear so many things and so many narratives, and I was very pleased to hear that they feel they have a lot of opportunities at Bookto, but also that there's work to do and that they appreciate the conversations behind the work that needs to be done. And so it's just very eye-opening when we speak to our students. And these are students that are on a positive track, that are doing great things, that have ambitions for college. One is a student athlete as well. But I like the acknowledgement of, hey, we are doing some great things here. But yeah, a lot of the things that are being said are also true. And it's for us all, better for us all. The one young man said, when we work together for solutions, because everyone wants to feel safe and everyone wants to be recognized. And they were very happy that DESCENCE represented them very well as a student board member. And so they did bring up DESCENCE Jackson and her concerns. And when she said, you know, we're doing great things at Bookto. We have Project Grad, we have scholars, and let's talk about those things too. So that was a great experience. And lastly, if I may take a moment of privilege, I want to highlight a first grade teacher at Forest Hills. Her name is Dawn Blakeney, I think is her name. I don't know if I'm saying it wrong. But we received a lot of emails, as Dr. Akbar said. And I really take to heart the emails that I receive about suggestions and things that can happen. And a lot of things is processing. It's like, hey, I want to talk to Pat Shipe about this and the teachers, because they're the ones who are on the ground that's going to have to make it happen. So it's not something that would just happen overnight, but that's the type of counsel that I would seek. And with this teacher, her passion in her email just for care and concern about her students and the demographic that she serves, it just spoke volumes to me, and it encouraged my heart, because it was clearly this woman cares for her kids. She cares for the services that they receive. And basically it was just because, as we know, North Hill has a large immigrant population, and her thing was, how are we making sure that they're properly informed and aware of what's going on? And she was speaking almost like someone's relative, more than a teacher, and that's what Excellence Looks Different is all about, is going above and beyond and caring that much. So I just wanted to highlight Ms. Blakeney from Forest Hill, first grade teacher. Thank you.
Ms. McKittrick.
Thank you, President. Really quickly, as a part of the negotiations team, I want to take this opportunity to thank both teams for their dedication and hard work. And secondly, you know, I've been on this planet a long time, and I've learned the difference between a want and a need. And while maybe neither side got everything they wanted, the kids got what they need, and that was their teachers in school today and the students in school today. So thank you, everyone, for the work, and I'm thrilled that our kids were in school today. Thank you.
Other reflections? Other reflections? Ms. Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank you, Cochise, for your representation of student board members. I also just wanted to acknowledge as well the many, did I say many, emails. And so, you know, it was a lot, you know, but I did take the time to read them. And I'm happy I wasn't the president at the time to have to respond to all of those. But again, I just wanted to acknowledge them. I want to acknowledge the people who didn't send emails, who have certain feelings about things. There were some good suggestions that I saw that I hope to be able to pass on, that we can incorporate. But when I think about my background and how I got here, I just want to encourage folks to take advantage of their parent groups, their PTAs. You know, maybe we point to parents and families as being a source of some of these issues and problems, but, you know, they're part of the solution too. And when you see that there is a need, we have to remember, you know, our resources that are out here. And so I know we've added on some mental health agencies. And so I just want to encourage teachers and other employees, when you see that there's a family who could benefit from support, take advantage of that. And then also, I know we recently added EAP for our employees. And so I want to encourage our employees to take advantage of that, because I want to remind everybody in this room experienced the trauma of COVID and all that it entailed. And as a nurse, I can't help but recognize some of the anxiety and stress expressed through some of those emails, rightfully so. But we have to remember that we all went through that together. And so I would like us to be able to move forward, take advantage of this momentum so we can get to the other side of this together. So again, we do have some new mental health agencies that I know have been brought on board, but we still have Red Oak, we have Minority Behavioral Health. So make those referrals. Let's get some help together. Let's heal and move forward together. So I just wanted to say that much. And then also just thanking both teams, both negotiating teams, for getting us to this point. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Autry. Are there any other community reflections? Okay, seeing as there are none, I will share my comments last then. And I'll time myself too, make sure I don't go over 3 minutes here. So first, Coach East, listen, I smile every time I see you. Seriously, like there are certain young people. I'm not going to call you a kid because you're not a kid. There's certain young people that they have an energy about them that when they walk in, you just want to smile when you see them. Even if they're not smiling, you just want to smile when you see them. And you are that person for me. So whenever I see you, I'm like, hey, that's Coach East, all right. So it's good to see you back here again. And looking forward to hearing more. I know that you're a junior now at East, is that right? Yeah. So looking forward to, I really can't wait to see what happens next year, where you end up and how things proceed in your life. So again, it's good to see you again as always. Secondarily, to Ms. Autry's point, I just want to echo her earlier conveyed sentiments around folks who reached out to us in this process. Not every email was nice or pleasant. But there was still a person on the other end of that email that took the time to send it because they cared, and so that's my takeaway. And so I appreciate those emails as much as I appreciate the emails of support. So, and then last but not least, I would be remiss again, Ms. Autry, to your point, Ms. McKittrick as well, if I didn't thank both teams, Ms. Shipe's team, as well as the APS team. I know that Ms. Tecca and Ms. Morgan and Ms. Kelly and Ms. McVeigh were there all weekend along with the superintendent, working to get this hammered out. And so we appreciate you all, and thank you for your contributions, because it would not have gotten done without a team that was devoted to getting it done. So having said that, if there are no more reflections, we now have requests to address the board. I believe we have 4 requests to address the board, and we'll take them in order of what's on the sheet here. Here, okay. So Jennifer Phillips is first. Okay, gotcha. All right, so we'll start with, so let me give the preamble here. So you will have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that you refrain from making any disparaging comments about staff or students. If you would like, if there's a special complaint that you'd like to put before the board, we can always go into executive session if you want to lodge a formal complaint. But otherwise, again, you will have 3 minutes to address the board. So we'll start with Ms. Jenna Phillips. Yes, please. Yep.
Okay. All right. Good evening. My name is Jenna Phillips. I'm a lot of things, but most of all, I am an Akron taxpayer, a homeowner inside the city limits. I am a former APS employee and a wife to a current APS employee. We have 2 little girls about to enter school and a contingency plan in place in case something awful happens. I wanted to come in front of you this evening to not only express my absolute support for your teachers, but to applaud and congratulate them for standing up for what they believe in, what is right, and for reaching a tentative agreement on their upcoming contract. I hope you get what you asked for and more, because you absolutely deserve it, and it never should have taken to these extremes. With that being said, it disheartens me that it seems like the only concerns are for the teachers. Safety concerns in the building do not only include teachers. I haven't heard any regard for the safety concerns of secretaries or anyone else in between. The support staff is critical in the day-to-day operation, and I am here to support them as well. But most of all, I want to speak on behalf of our school bus drivers. They are constantly underrated, underpaid, dismissed, to even flat out ignored. When most people hear, I am a bus driver, that is all they think. They are just the lowly bus drivers and all they do is drive, when, in fact, they are much more than that. They are the first and last person our students see for the day. They are teachers, secretaries, counselors, custodians. Most of the time, they are even their own security. And yes, last but not least, they are the school bus driver, with more responsibility and liability than they are acknowledged or compensated for. Now imagine for a minute you drive in a car. Can you picture all the reckless drivers you encounter every day? Now imagine being in a 22,000-pound, 35-foot or longer school bus, driving 30-plus different families' children, mostly only during morning and evening rush hour, with road rage, don't want to be behind a school bus, distracted, or poor driving skilled operators. The kids are loud, and you also have to deal with violence and threats. Now, on top of all that, your back is turned and all you have is a mirror to control your vehicle. There are many cringeworthy and horrifying stories that some of your drivers could tell you, and keep in mind these stories are created because of children. If there's an issue, there might be security available, and if they are available, they might be on the other side of the city. It can take up to 20 minutes to arrive, and in order to take students off the bus, the parents still have to give permission. It was posted that your security staff will possibly be going from $40 to $50 an hour, retroactive from December 12th. That's a 25% increase. Your school bus drivers make less than half of that and are responsible for bringing your funding to school. The community knows that the board and administrator know that what is happening inside and outside of our schools, way more than they are letting us know, while the public is told hollow lies or bent, maybe even half-truths. We are not an ignorant collection. We are tired of being treated as such. On occasion, little tidbits of information trickle out. Guns, knives, and drugs being brought into the school in what seem like never-endless counting fights. There are much more going on, and the biggest issue is that it's also happening on your buses. There's no protection for your drivers, none, and it fully appears that they are on their own, responsible for everyone and themselves. The least Akron Public Schools can do is hold these students and parents responsible and accountable. Enough is enough. This community deserves a safe place to send our children to learn and become the future. Send the message that this behavior will not be tolerated anymore, that there will be swift actions taken for poor behavior and there will be enforced. You can be progressive in your actions while enforcing rules and regulation, but we know we need to be proactive and quell the problems before there is a problem. Turning our schools into a militant police state is reactive, and again, all of us need to be proactive. I stand here in front of you and have voiced many concerns. However, in my heart, I feel it is moot. I feel that greed has taken over inside of Akron Public Schools. This is just a formality to give the illusion of a voice, because ultimately your minds have been made up. I truly hope that I am wrong.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Appreciate your time today.
Hi, and thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Nikki Taylor. I am the mother of 4 APS students, a senior, a sophomore, a 4th grader, and a 2nd grader. I have been very involved in the elementary school since my oldest son was in kindergarten, and I was also a staff member working in the cafeteria. Over the years, I have seen firsthand the decline in behavior of some of the students. This is on all grade levels in our schools. I have also witnessed the rules and consequences become softer and more lenient in the name of fairness and equity. While I agree wholeheartedly with everyone being treated fairly and equally, it seems as though that is geared more towards the students that are causing the problems and misbehaving. I feel like the students that attend school for the right reasons and are doing the right thing are being overlooked, and most of the attention is going towards the chaos. I really don't think things can go on the way that they have been if we want to see improvement. It seems to me that our kids know that they can get away with bad behavior altogether or with a slap on the wrist. APS needs to be a leader in school safety in the state of Ohio, not a follower. An updated code of student behavior should be given to everyone and be followed consistently throughout the district. There needs to be consequences for poor behavior, whether it be verbal or physical, with other students or with staff. Children disrespecting adult staff should never be tolerated. Students that repeatedly choose to disrupt the learning for others need to be dealt with accordingly. Maybe some sort of community school to serve suspensions instead of getting a little vacation at home before returning to school. Expulsions need to be just that. Gone from the district, not just placed in another one of our schools. And I am all for giving second chances, but when is enough enough? I believe it is important for teachers to be communicated with after disruptions occur and consequences are carried out. They need to know that administrators have their backs and that they are trusted to make decisions for what's best in their own classrooms and school environments. I do think that metal detectors and bag checks are necessary at this point in our climate, but what happens after the students get into the buildings for classes and sporting events is the main issue. Also, I think that stronger security measures should be a concern at the elementary level, not just the middle and high schools. Look what just recently happened in Virginia. Rules for cell phone usage in the classrooms needs to be addressed and carried out to help prevent the planning of fights and disturbances. I do think that we can start doing things to make positive changes in our district, but we need to start with accountability. Assuming that the language used to define assault was not changed, how are our kids and teachers going to be protected? If all of the nonsense that has occurred in our schools happened under the unchanged wording, what is going to be done from now on? Let's all hold ourselves accountable in order to make positive changes for our district. We all deserve that. And thank you. And I'm also very thankful that you guys came to an agreement because we were really hoping to be in school today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Next, we have Mr. Noah John.
Good evening. I'm generally an anti-union person, but through poor leadership from this board, superintendent, and her administration, you drove me to support a teacher strike. I've known my wife, my best friend, for 3 years. I watched as she worked tirelessly to do well in college and earn a degree in teaching. I've seen how much she cares about children and helping them learn. I saw how excited she was to get her full-time teaching position. Yet half a year at her building has destroyed all of it. Not because of that school's administration, who are wonderful, but because of this board and superintendent whose policies they must enforce and abide by. My wife's hair is falling out from the stress and anxiety. She comes home and cries a few days a week. She hates her job she was so excited for, and she thinks that she may have wasted 4 years of college to join a field that she can't enjoy. My wife is one of far too many Akron teachers who have been assaulted this year. The trauma from that has taken months for her to deal with. If this board and superintendent would not consider what happened to my wife assault because she was not injured. Ohio Revised Code section 2903.13a states, quote, "No person shall knowingly cause or attempt to cause physical harm to another or to another's unborn," end quote. This definition does not include injury as a requirement. The Ohio legislature gets to define assault in this state, not you. This means that this board and administration blatantly lied when they published a fact check sheet which claimed, quote, "There is no evidence that serious safety incidents in APS schools are not quickly and appropriately managed or that APS teachers are assaulted weekly," end quote. This board and administration have tried to deceive the public by using a made-up definition of assault that in no way would be used by the general public or the law. As for whether serious safety incidents are handled properly in this district, my wife heard from another elementary teacher that one of their students threatened to bring a gun to school and shoot everyone. This was reported to the building administration, who then reported it to the district administration. The student was pulled from class for no more than 2 days. On Friday, a teacher in Newport News, Virginia, was shot by her first grade student. If a first grade student can bring a loaded gun to school and shoot his teacher, then it can happen in any grade. We've already seen this school year that students in this district can bring firearms into the building. We're all lucky that what happened in Newport News has not yet happened here in Akron, considering the low bar this board and administration have set for what is a good job at handling serious safety incidents. And this is not the only area where this board and administration has failed. This city is a mess. This city will never progress if the next generations are poorly educated because of constant distraction and misbehavior in the classroom. The teachers in this district do what they can. The building administrators do what they can, but the district administration has failed to provide the support required. The students of this district will not be properly educated until classrooms have limited disruption and are guaranteed to be safe. Now I have a message for the parents in this district who actually care about their children. Take your kids and get out of this district. Unfortunately, a lot of the unacceptable behavior is the result of poor parenting. There are far too many parents in this district who couldn't care less about their kids' upbringing and education. If they don't care about their own kids, they certainly don't about your kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John. Okay, next we have Miss Annetta Brown. Okay, all right. We'll move next to Miss Kim Trowbridge. Okay. We'll move next to, and I beg your pardon, I can't make out the handwriting. It's as bad as my handwriting, truthfully. Miss Kellyanne, is it Callahan? Oh, that was last month. That's okay, all right. Okay, and I'm glad that I have company in the Poor Handwriting Club. Thank you, appreciate that. All right. I believe that concludes our request to address the board. Next, we'll move to item 4, approval of the previous meeting minutes. This includes meetings from December 12th, December 19th, December 29th, and January 5th. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from those dates?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Atkins, roll call.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Next, we move to personnel recommendations. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, good evening. I would like to recommend approval of the personnel recommendations presented in categories 5 through 16. In presenting those to you, Board, I would like to take the opportunity to regrettably also highlight the death of one of our staff members, Mr. Jeffrey Lysek, who passed away on December 24th, 2022. He will be missed by all students and staff who knew him. Mr. Lysek was hired in the Akron Public Schools in 2009 as a mathematics instructor at Litchfield Middle School, where he remained for 5 years. During the 2015-16 school year, he left the classroom and was named Dean of Students at Litchfield Middle School, and then named Dean of Students at for many other consecutive years. He then moved into the middle school assistant principal role at I Promise School from 2018 to 2022, before moving most recently to higher CLC. His wife, Megan, works for APS as a paraprofessional at Bridges. They have 3 children in the Akron Public Schools. And again, he unfortunately passed away and will be missed by all who knew and loved him. I wish to recommend approval of the full personnel recommendations presented in categories 5 through 16.
Is there a motion to approve the personnel recommendations?
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Ms. Autry?
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 12.1, I just wanted to acknowledge Donna Marchak, who was she's retiring, but she served over at Bookdale in the cafeteria for many, many years and helped out with our annual Pancake Day, which is one of the longest standing traditions over there in West Akron. And so she's given a lot to those students, and just an example of one of our team members who has been a positive attribute to the district. So I wanted to wish her well, acknowledge her, and thank her for all of her years of service over there in the cafeteria at Bookdale. I also wanted to, I guess, make more of a comment as well. It was brought up by one of the folks who just addressed us, item 14.1. And our officers are getting an increase in their pay rate from $40 to $50 an hour. So my comment around that is that I'm hoping to see some type of initiatives come forth between our officers, our safety team, and just our buildings in general. And so my children are adults. I recall when my student was still in the school and there was an incident, and I had asked, were the officers provided any special training to deal with children? And I was told at that time that, they just operate as normal police officers in the school. And I just think that's an area of opportunity where we can actually grow. Because while they're in schools, they have every right, in my opinion, to be able to have a fresh start every day. And these officers have the opportunity to build relationships with our students to help develop good relationships with them once they are adults. And so just looking at that hourly rate, it's a hefty raise. And so I would just like to see some type of something grow from that we can point to and say we're doing something different here in APS with our police officers and our security teams.
Thank you, Ms. Autry. Is there any other discussion? Dr. Akbar.
So I kind of had a very similar concern, and just to extend on what Ms. Autry said, I think it would be good. We don't have to do it today, but I think it would be good to, Ms. Autry always talks about part of our role is also educating the public. And I think it'll be good to educate the public on the rationale between, why we have the $10 raise per hour, especially since we are still trying to figure out the livable wage, which is much less than this for all of our employees. I think that would be good to just educate people, because I know potentially some of that wage may not be our choosing. It may be based off their rate and what they charge. I'm not sure, but it'll be good to just give us all an education on that.
We'd be happy to provide some additional information to the board. Again, that rate is a rate that's established by the police department, and that rate referred to police officers that are working the coverage after hours. So the police officers you might see at football games or some concerts or those types of activities. And one of the things that we were challenged by was having officers really assume those roles and did work across with the police department. So this wasn't just a regular duty rate, but we can provide you additional information on that.
Thank you, Dr. Akbar. Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Are there any other discussion? Any other discussion on this topic? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Atkins, roll call, please.
Mrs. McKittrick?
No on 7.4 and 14.2, yes on the balance.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Next, we'll proceed to item 19, section 19, finance and capital management. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, within this section, I wish to recommend the approval of the resolutions and motions presented in categories 21. They are in proper format. I move for their approval. In 19, though, I would like to highlight two significant donations because we have continued to receive a great deal of support from the community at large. Within 19.1, that is a state donation of Edward Roy Hurst, who has donated $20,000 from that estate for accounting scholarships to make sure that students can pursue that type of degree and credentialing. Also in 19.6, we continue to just want to say our sincere thanks to the GAR Foundation for their support to make sure that we have the resources to diversify and expand mental health supports in the system. So there is an $18,000 additional donation there for mental health supports for our students.
Okay, is there a motion to approve items contained in section 19?
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Perry. Any discussion? Ms. Autry?
Thank you. I just wanted to piggyback on the item that Madam Superintendent touched upon. Thanks again to GAR for that $18,000 grant. But for those of you who might not have it in front of them, this is going to be a 6-hour training provided to 2 adults per middle school and 10 students at each middle school. And it's for mental health. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that publicly for the folks who might not have it in front of them. And thank you again, GAR.
Any other discussion? Yeah, so I would echo, so in my comments upon accepting the mantle of leadership, I did talk about GAR and so that they have been very generous with this organization. And part of the reason why you heard me specifically invite Christine Mayer to come join us here at the table is, GAR gives a lot of dollars to a lot of different initiatives, and I think that one of the things that would probably be helpful for the public is to understand and hear from GAR leadership sort of what their overall plan is, right? So those of us at the table are privy to that, but GAR has a larger plan in how they support Akron Public Schools, and so as we seek, Ms. Autry, to educate the public and to elucidate, the motivations and the many ways in which our partners partner with us and support us. It's integral that we bring those leaders and invite them here to come talk about, again, as I said in my speech, all the things that they've done, doing, and seek to do, and how that is consistent with their overall organizational strategy and how they support Akron Public Schools. So again, Kirsten, I see that you're here. Again, we would love to have you all at some point come and talk to us in greater detail about that. So it's good to see you, by the way. So any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Mr. Atkins, roll call, please.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Ms. McKittrick?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we'll move to the items contained in section 21, resolutions. Madam Superintendent.
Yeah,
Did I say, excuse me, 23?
we kind of lump 19 and 21
Did we?
together
Okay.
usually.
Gotcha.
Would you like to move on to 23?
Yeah, we'll go to 23.
Okay.
Yep.
Sure. I wish to recommend approval of the business affairs recommendations presented in category 23.
Is there a motion to approve items contained in section 23?
So moved.
It's been moved by Dr. Akbar. Second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Perry. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick?
No on 23.2 and 23.16, yes on the rest.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Next, we'll proceed to the superintendent's report. Madam Superintendent.
Sure. And again, good evening to each of the board members, and congratulations, Dr. Hall, on your presidency here today, and you too, Mrs. Autry, on your vice presidency. Today was a good day from everyone's perspective. We've heard that quite a bit today with our children and our staff members in classrooms with learning uninterrupted. I too want to add special thanks to both of the negotiation teams who worked tirelessly to reach agreement and levels of compromise. Huge recognition is due to building-based leaders, faculty, and staff in all roles who remained focused on our primary goals and remained really optimistic in our ability to get this done. Special thanks to the many organizations, faith-based institutions, leaders throughout the city, and civic partners who stepped forward, ready to assist however was needed for our students and for our staff members. The offers of child care support and student support services at just on a moment's notice and without reservation is really indicative of who our community is. Special thanks to the parents and community at large who supported us through this process, even when it became difficult and progress slowed a bit. Last but not least, thanks as well to this board for the active engagement and leadership within our ability to arrive at an agreement for this contract. My team and I will now begin the work with staff to implement the agreement in a manner that builds and unites us as one team. In the near future, I'll be prepared to also share the implications of the agreement within the context of our priorities as we continue to modify our priorities and shift resources. Many of the topics that were talked about throughout the negotiations process, especially considering the safety and discipline topics, are ones that we care a great deal about. Arriving at an agreement does not lessen our urgency to address the behavior and the needs of our students and to make sure that our staff members feel safe each and every day. In fact, it will continue to heighten our commitment to invest, to train, and to offer supports for students, and then also to make sure our staff are adequately supported. We know that we must and we can do more, and that we can make significant positive change together. So we look forward to engaging in that. On a positive note, during the recent winter holiday break, our students in kindergarten through 8th grade engaged in a district-wide iReady challenge where they were encouraged to do literacy and math assignments each day during the winter break. We are in the process now of tallying up our participation stats because we plan to recognize those dedicated and top engaged students, at least the top 4 or 5 in each of the buildings that devoted time to completing activities and to really ensuring that learning continued. Those leaders will be highlighted at an upcoming board meeting. It will be kind of impossible with how many buildings we serve to bring all of those students here, but we hope to bring highlights of those students so that the board can recognize students that really made sure that their learning stayed a top priority. Just a reminder, too, that we are dawning upon next week, I believe, is the day on instead of a day off. It's the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day where we honor his life and legacy as a national day of service. Leading up to this day, we will be highlighting the contributions of Dr. King and others, the contributions and acts of leadership right here in our own community, as we encourage our scholars to commit to acts of service and potentially also weaving in connections to acts of kindness as we continue to reinforce our Be Kind 330 initiative. We are mindful of the fact that Dr. King, at his height of service and impact, was a relatively young man. And it's another reason and a reinforcing factor which reminds us that students like Cochise, our own student leaders, can really have a very, very positive impact in our own school community, and that we really need to devote time and energy to cultivating and supporting our student leaders. So we will be doing that leading up into that holiday observance. Also, just want you to mark your calendars for January 28th. This was in my notes, but upon arriving today, I see we got tickets at our seats here, as VIP tickets, that are inviting us to the 67th APS STEM Expo. And so our STEM students in grades 3 through 12 have an opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge and passion for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in an expo that will take place at Ellett CLC on Saturday, January 28th. So the students were able to do projects. Those projects will get feedback and be judged from 9 to 12:30 on that day, and then there is an awards ceremony that will begin around 2 o'clock. So it should be a relatively fun day to see our students do demonstrations of learning. Students in grades 5 through 12th grade actually have the ability to be recognized in other types of competitions at the state level. So even our local expo can birth students who can go on and be recognized in other statewide competitions. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Quick question for you.
Sure. We did, so that's what I read. And that's 12, yeah, because we never do 19 always gets together. Yep.
So new leadership means that you want to make sure that you didn't have any procedural errors. That's what we were conferring about. So those of you who are wondering at home. So next we move to President's Report. I made most of my comments earlier today. There's just two quick items I'd like to add that I omitted from my earlier remarks, and one of which is during the negotiations, there was a day, and I don't remember which day it was in December, and as those of you who were in those rooms, you know how those days could drag. And there was a day when I heard this beautiful music, this beautiful sound coming from outside the door. And I immediately got up and left the room because I was looking for any excuse to leave the room. And I walked out into the hallway, and we had the Firestone Madrigals that were there performing. They were in medieval costume, and they were singing, and they had voices like angels. And it made me, and it candidly, not to be melodramatic, but it honestly brought a tear to my eye. And so it got me to thinking that we have all these talented performers, not just at Firestone, but also at schools across the city. As you'll see if you go to choirs and rounds or bands and rounds, which is coming up here next month, I believe. One of the things that I'm going to work with our team to do is to start to bring some of those folks to our board meetings, because I'd love to start a board meeting off with a couple of songs from one of our singing or sound groups. I think that'd be fantastic. So that's comment number one. Comment number two is, there was a time when this board in the past took their act on the road. And so one of the things I'd like my colleagues to consider, and we'll socialize this as well, is let's start to have the conversation about how do we go to meet the community where they are in those schools. And there may be nonprofits that wish to host us. I can imagine, like, for example, the Boys and Girls Club, and whether it's the YMCA or EPAW. So again, really trying to be creative in how we find ways to go and meet the community where they reside. So those are my two comments, and that would conclude my comments and report tonight. Next, we'll move to Treasurer's Report. Mr. Atkins.
I do not have a report.
No report. Fantastic. Next, we'll move to committee reports. We'll go to legal, contracts, and board policy. Our new board chair, Dr. Akbar.
No report, but we will be working with Mr. Atkins to determine our meeting schedule for this year.
Thank you, Dr. Akbar. We'll move next to Finance Committee. Vice President Autry.
Thank you so much. No report at this time. We will be working to get our schedule established as well. But I do just want to keep at the forefront, coming from the Finance Committee, that in 2020 we were levy imminent. And so the funds that we were able to utilize based on the pandemic allowed us to be able to push that out. But here we are. And so I just want to keep that in the forefront of everybody's minds, that's going to be a topic of discussion that we need to keep at the forefront. And so I just wanted to share that on behalf of the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Autry. Next, we move to Instructional Policy and Student Achievement, our new chair, Mr. Alexander.
We have no report, but we will be working on the dates to schedule we actually have those dates, but we will be working on getting that together soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Next, we move to Equity, our new chair, Ms. McKittrick.
No report.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. McKittrick. So that concludes our reports. Looking for new business here. Let's see. Give me a second. So there is no unfinished or new business. We have new business? Where's that at in here? Where is it? I don't see it. It's not here now. Is it in here? Let's see. Yeah, but I'm in board doc. It's not there. Okay. 006. Okay, this is going to be section resolution 23.006. Okay, this is a motion to accept the resolution to recommend board counsel. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, if none, Mr. Atkins, roll call, please.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
The motion carries. Okay, next we move to, seeing that's the end of new business, we do have a need to recess into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 for the purpose of considering the employment of a public employee or official of the school district, and G4 for the purpose of reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees concerning compensation or other terms and conditions of employment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Alexander. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McKittrick. Any discussion? Okay, seeing there's no discussion, roll call, please. Mr. Alexander. I'm sorry, Mr. Atkins, excuse me.
Mrs. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. So we will have an action after executive session. So those of you who would like to wait, you're more than welcome. It may be a little while before we come back. We have multiple items. So having said that, we are now adjourned. Fantastic. Welcome back to this regularly scheduled board meeting. We've just come back from executive session, and we will now entertain a motion to adopt the resolution adopting the contract between the Akron Board of Education and the Akron Education Association.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. McKittrick. It's been seconded by Dr. Akbar. Is there any discussion? Discussion. All right. Well, if there's no discussion, roll call, please, Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mrs. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Absolutely.
All right. The motion carries. Congratulations, team. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so having said that, we are going to recess back into executive session. Give me 1 second here. So we're going to motion to recess into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G4 for the purpose of, G1, for the purpose of considering the employment of a public employee or official of the school district. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, it's been motioned. It's been moved by Ms. Autry. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McKittrick. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mrs. Autry?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. We will recess now. Thank you.